Hi, lesson 3 of the Friedrich Nietzsche course. What did you think of lesson 2, Alan de Botton's documentary? What did you think? Especially, what did you think of this concept of Friedrich Nietzsche's that he investigates, that somehow in order to be happy we must go through unhappiness, in order to succeed we must go through failure? Does that make sense or does that not make sense? When I look back on my life, I can think of things which happened and I was devastated about, I thought were terrible, terrible experiences. But now when I look back on them, I see that actually they were positive in the effect they had on me. In that they made me realise truth, they made me change my own ways. I can think of breaking the law when I was young, sort of smashing a window, and that perhaps was a terrible experience and I got caught by the police. Is that a positive experience for me, because did that move me to a straight and narrow that I otherwise wouldn't have had? I can think of past relationships that have broken down which are devastating at the time, but actually now in retrospect you say, well, was that just a hurdle I had to jump over in order that I could have a more fulfilling relationship later in life? I don't know. And these are the questions of philosophy. These are the questions that the Friedrich Nietzsche poses, which are, to me, very interesting questions. Is it possible to have success without failure? Is it possible to live a life of pure happiness, of pure success, of pure bliss? Or can we only appreciate success through failure? These are questions to think about. It's funny because Friedrich Nietzsche is often seen as the great sort of crier of the end of God. His famous saying is, God is dead. Well, okay, but I see a lot of comparison actually with the famous medieval religious commentator Dante. Dante wrote this book. I'm sure you can hopefully find a lesson on it on teachmyself.org. But Dante wrote about the need to reach heaven through sort of going via hell and purgatory, and it's a very common sort of Christian feeling. I sense that the pain and suffering means something because it is our way of reaching heaven, of proving to God our worthiness. That ever since the original fall of man, ever since Adam and Eve ate the apple in the Garden of Eden, we are sort of behind the curtain. We have to prove, by going through pain, we have to prove our faith. Well, I don't for 1 minute suggest that Nietzsche believed in God. He didn't. But in some sense, his view of happiness is quite comparable to that. His view that somehow in order to get a happiness which is an earthly, which is a secular, a non-religious happiness, we need to go through unhappiness. That somehow our unhappiness is mutually dependent on our happiness, that our failure is mutually dependent upon success. Is that what Nietzsche means? Is he a secular Dante? A sort of a Dante of his time, of the sort of the more modern era? Well, these are interesting questions. To what extent is Nietzsche actually have Christian ethics from the culture he was born into, even if he doesn't believe they come from a God? Another interesting question. The biggest topic in Nietzsche's philosophy, or at least an introduction to Nietzsche's philosophy, is his concept of the Übermensch. It's often translated as the Superman or the Overman. Nietzsche has this concept that the man exists on a hierarchy, as it were, where the very bottom of that hierarchy, you have animals and stupid sentient creatures, and then that next level you have man, as we are incarnate at the moment, full of not just our little bit of reason, but also emotions and religion, I suppose. And then, according to Nietzsche, there is that higher level, which is what he calls the overman, which is overcoming that humanity. And it seems to be for Nietzsche, as I interpret it, a rejection and an overcoming and a suppression of the more emotional parts of the human nature, the suppression of what was often seen as that Christian sort of ethic. And that's an interesting view, and this is a very hotly debated subject, and we're going to try and introduce it now. And it plays into this whole feeling of how you can experience happiness, or how you can reach the Übermensch, how you can be that Superman by going through what is the equivalent of Dante's Inferno, going through this purgatory, by getting control of yourself, by developing yourself, by working within yourself to control your emotion and exist as this sort of purely reasoned, as it were, Superman. And that's an interesting one, and we'll come back to that again and again, because this is really the central part of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy. And I'm going to introduce it with another video, and the next lesson, lesson 4, is a short 10-minute YouTube clip. I found it on YouTube, and it's the famous American orator, if you like, Tony Robbins, who's one of these motivational guys who's sort of, big white smile, with his sort of teeth going, rah, you've got to take control of your life. No, I don't in any means want to criticise Tony Robbins, or I'm not making a value judgment. The thing is I want to compare him to Nietzsche. And he tells a story in this clip of Sylvester Stallone, who famously wrote and played Rocky and has a very successful Hollywood career. And he sort of takes Sylvester Stallone's life as sort of iconic of what it means to him to be what I can only compare to the Übermensch, the Superman, what it means to take control of your life, to develop your life. And I'm going to play that video, and I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about how is Tony Robbins saying the same thing as Nietzsche, with or without the sort of the overarching sort of anti-Christian feel. It's not the point. The point is Tony Robbins actually explaining that Sylvester Stallone is the Übermensch? Well, I don't know. And that's something for you to think about. So the next lesson is the 10-minute Tony Robbins explanation of the story of Rocky. Good luck.